us, and so there's going to be this exchange of information. The problem is, Chris, I'm not exactly sure how this is. Nobody seems to know. We're, you know, as I said, we're driving the car down the road. We're trying to build it while we're doing it, and so we're going to have to be flexible. Is all I can tell.
So we have 3 projects, you know, that are coming this way.
Yeah.
So you met with the villages to, the municipalities to tell what we can do.
Yeah.
There's probably going to be, what if one of these projects doesn't come to us? You know, do the municipalities understand that if there's another project and they don't go through us for what we can do, where's the 5% coming from if these people do it on their own?
We tried to get around the point. We tried to make that point, Paul, but I'm not sure how many.
I know, that's the problem. Hopefully they'll figure it out.
Have anyone tried to bring in funding agencies like DANK to help with these?
Yeah. We,
now if DANK does it, will their contribution be considered government?
Yeah, same as ours. If we have to fund, like these, that's why I say these projects typically are much more than the $200,000, which was used as an example. So if they have to borrow money, which we fully expect these guys to have to do, they could probably do some kind of a joint borrowing like we have done with other organizations, and the same would apply. If DANK helps with reduced interest rates or something, all that gets applied. And we would ask them to do that because we don't have the capacity for dealing with, you know, these bigger projects. We just don't have the resources. So it's work in progress. And honest to God, guys, I wish I had a better feel for how it's going to look. I just don't know.
My concern is they're going to go through this whole process. They will put together a final filing with the state. Here's the governmental 5%, and somebody hiccups where they miss it, and all of a sudden they've been planning on getting their state money.
They've already spent it.
And they've already spent it, they borrowed it, and then they don't get it back.
And the municipalities are prohibited from funding private projects.
Correct.
And not only are they not budgeted, they can't do it without special legislation from the state.
And so anything like in-kind services is unavailable to these projects, even though a lot of municipalities are profitable.
Well, the other problem with municipalities, they got their own
So at least
ready
you've got
projects
5 or
that they're
6
trying to
businesses.
get through too.
I mean, it's just.
Right now, the deadline is closed, and there's 3 projects that are.
Only 3 knows about coming here. There's probably
know of
53 projects that have submitted to the state.
You think there'd be that many?
It's probably around the realize St. Lawrence and like Ontario. So yeah, you probably are.
This goes to Oswego to Messina, right, or something of that nature.
Well,
some of
that
them
relates to us in Jefferson County.
Yeah, but here's
If the
Paul's
ready
point.
money is Oswego to Messina, it affects 2 other counties or possibly a third. No,
But
2
Paul's
other counties.
point is very valid, and this is what we try to explain to them. If they come to us, we can probably qualify the 5%. What happens if they don't need us? Okay, what happens if they can fund their own thing? So they do their own thing. Now, all of a sudden, there's this missing 5%. So it either has to come out of somebody's equity or the village or towns, and I don't think legally they can do it, Joe.
No, they can't.
So, write a check.
What happens then? And so you say, ESP, you've left this hole here. We'll try to comply, but
It's almost setting up that they gotta come through us is the only way they can qualify to get it.
They have to borrow.
yeah, that's unfortunately or
They
fortunately.
don't have to borrow, the only thing they're really that's gonna get them there is the sales tax.
Well, and exempting an application fee, minor things that do add up.
See, I
Yeah,
don't
it's
see
a
how
smaller
they're
interest
gonna
rate,
add
you know, we do 3% or
I
something.
mean, again, it's 5% of the 400, it's 5% of the 200,000, which is the max match. Or whatever the project value is, but I mean, so we're talking about, they gotta come up with, that $10,000. So at the maximum project size that state would match, the municipality's gotta come up with 10 grand, which if there's 5 or 6 projects in each municipality, that's kind of an insurmountable value to just cough up out of the coffee fund.
Well, it gets more
50K is a big deal.
Well, and it gets more complicated. Some of these guys are in an emergency mode. They've already started construction. Okay, now they come back to us and say, I want a lease back. We can't proactively save sales tax money. So now we're in a position, we're the bad guys. We can't you can't comply.
And that is actually part of the ready, is something that occurred last year and was corrected or needs to be corrected. There's some like look back as well.
But again, the big number is that 5%, to get to 5% is the sales tax increase. Well, we can't look retroactively back. The money's spent, it's spent. And so, you know,
But on a typical $400,000 job, we would normally estimate about 40 or 50%.
40%.
Yeah,
about 40%.
So I mean, it's just the math simply works out that you're always gonna be above that 5% threshold of the 200K. And
Sure.
we're only taking half of, you only have to take the matches, the 5% contribution is only on the state matching portion, which is maximum 200K. So the municipality's gotta come up with 10K for each job maximum.
And I think we can put together something in regard to our fees, our interest rates, some in-kind services that we will provide.
Let's raise our fees than.
Hey, we got some people in need, let's raise their fees, that'll go over well.
Now that the application time frame has passed, can the state give us a list of Jefferson County projects and the asks? So we then know who we need to be contacting to say, you apply for a grant, we may be able to help.
That'd be the easiest route.
it's supposed to be coming. But
I mean, it was only 6 days ago.
the way
That's
things
like
are going.
that's a nanosecond in state time.
Yeah.
6 days is like nothing.
the problem is the governor and the guys in the ESD took me aside Wednesday night and said, the governor is saying, I want results and I want to see them this month. So I don't know what that means, except that apparently everybody's rushing to try to get it done. So I don't know.
So with it all looking like we're gonna have another high water year.
It is.
I attended the,
It's only gone down that much.
5 minutes here. I attended the Save the River conference last Saturday. They had a great speaker. He's a professor from, I think it's Michigan or Minnesota, hydrogeologist, and he's talking about the lakes and what's really happened, what's happened. So this is the only water system in the world that needs to not only consider the run, what's coming in, but the evaporation and the precipitation because of the size of the lakes and they've tracked back 100 years and they've tracked it through. One of the big things that's happened is these last 3 years, and this was never taken into consideration when
Seaway
214,
system.
no, but when the new system, when the new Plan 214 was put in the late 90s, the last 3 years of the 90s, they had the highest evaporation in 100 years in these lakes. The last 3 years, they've had the lowest evaporation in 100 years. So not only do we have the water coming in, but we got the high precipitation, the lack of evaporation. That's not figured into the whole model of the system. The other thing he says is the American model takes into consideration, and I'm going very quickly because this was, charts and graphs, but the American model takes into consideration the soil saturation in the area of the, Great Lakes, as well as evaporation, as well as river runoff, as precipitation, everything else. And so with the American model, it does not take into what's coming in from the Canadian side. It's not added to it. So he says there's a big piece of moisture that's missing. And that's why the feds look at ours and they say, just because of the American model, they said there should be no problems at all. But it does not take into consideration what's coming, the moisture content. The runoff comes in, but the actual moisture content, which, as any farmer knows, allows for, holding that water back and everything. Then you take the Ottawa River, and that's had record precipitation, and so their modeling is skewed, and therefore they're looking at this and saying, geez, there really shouldn't be any issues here, but He says, yeah, there is. And the evaporation one, so they've developed, they used to, for really tracking evaporation, they had some lighthouses that they were, put their instruments on. Now they've got a Canadian ship that travels the Great Lakes a lot, and they've got their evaporation system hooked to that ship, so they're gonna get a lot better tracking on this and everything. So it's a combination of human error along with the moisture that's caused this.
I'll back that up. I ran into a guy this summer on the river who was one of the original, he was part of the original engineering crew, civil engineer that built the Seaway. Old guy, 84 years old. And he was explaining.
What's all about that?
Well, I'm an old guy. We're all old guys. But he went on to explain, they used 100-year modeling for that, what they had. And the system was really designed in 54 and built in 58. So that 100-year span, which is what, the world engineering uses, 100-year storm flood dam occurrences. So all of that they used, they built the system. When they designed the coffer dams and built the dams, his bottom line was, in essence, what we've got is a system that no matter how well you manage it, it can't handle it because of these rainfalls that we're getting, saturation points, the lack of evaporation, it's really weather change. He said, I don't care how you manage the outflows, we got a system that's not designed to handle what's being thrown at it. And I don't care how you play with the outflows. Yeah, without flooding Montreal, taking half of Montreal, and all the development that's gone on downriver for the last 50 years. Now, if you try and raise those water levels, you can't. That's the circuit breaker. So, in essence, you can't dam it up, but yet you can't let it out. You're screwed. You're screwed unless the only solution is going to be the weather's got to change.
You remember years ago the great debate over Great Lakes diversion down through the Mississippi.
But look at it this spring, the Mississippi, the Red River Valley, that was completely flooded. To send more water that way in a dry year. If we have a dry year and you can do that, guess what? We don't need it. It's handling. So we're in a situation where we're screwed.
Well, here's the situation. Take what you just described, you and Dave, and try to get a local small businessman to understand how he has to address this going forward.'s planning in the 5 to 10 year range. You're looking at a new normal. And he's saying, what do I do? How far do I raise those docks? How far back do I? One of the guys yesterday was his office is about to be flooded. I mean, so what's the new
You also got to
normal?
think about the residences, because without the residents, the businesses, it's.
The other thing that you don't see though is the real damage you don't see yet. It's coming the next 3 years. The seawalls, the break walls that are all compromised right now, they aren't showing it up. If you look for it, I see it on the property that I'm in. It's like, it's what's been solid for the last 10 years, it's fracture cracking and it's moving, and it's because of all the water going in.
Hydraulics is the strongest force there is.
So,
Well, we're
these
gonna have a lot of
contractors can't even get in to do the work. The water level's down 2.5, 3 feet from behind right now. This whole construction phase, they're gonna have to build coffer dams around the shoreline and pump, which is a whole dimension for trying to do shoreline work that doubles the cost.
Well, the problem will be for us here at staff level is to try to give you guys a picture of what each one of these projects look like in light of what you just described. And I don't know that we have the expertise to do it. And frankly, these guys are having a hell of a time affording the expertise to back up what they're trying to do, the engineering. If you imagine the engineering to do one of these projects of raising all these docks, buildings, fuel, they got to take fuel away from the water, move it up, put pump stations in. I mean, it's just, the hydraulics alone is just enormous. So we're going to give you stuff as best we can. I don't know what it's going to look like, frankly, when it comes in. So
I have a quick question for Chris. On this ready pool, and there's going to be a handful, I'm sure you're going to deal with. But with that program, the participants, whether it's a municipality or a business, they're gonna have to upfront. All right, so here I am, I'm a business, maybe I can show on a balance sheet, $500,000, contribution to the business to correct this problem. The other $500,000 is gonna come from the READY program, the state.
200 max.
All right, oh, that's right, 250. So anyway, you as a banker, you're gonna sit there and look at this. Are you gonna put that money out gambling on?
We're looking at it case by case. We've had several meetings internally. We talked about coming up with a ready loan program. We can't. There's just too many variables right now, and because there could be some very large projects, we're not gonna put that money out there unsecured. So hopefully, I've got a couple before me right now that they have equity in their property. Not all of them are going to have
But
that,
you do
so.
consider the grant part as collateral.
Not
Yes.
now.
Not up front,
It's just speculative.
because we don't really know, because we don't
So
know
they
all
need
these
$500,000
terms.
and it's 200 of that's coming, you're gonna have to do the loan that they can pay the $500,000.
But once they're
back.
approved,
They can't
once they're
do
approved
the
for
grant.
the program, and they have the
That's-
grant pledged to them.
That's why I was asking
Because that's kind of how we
process
treat
here.
it.
How good is the grant pledge? If they still have to prove they've got
The
it.
5%.
5%.
That's why I was asking whose responsibility is
Well,
that gonna
we
be?
remember-
There's a small risk, yeah.
The state
Bank's not
cannot
gonna take
commit,
that.
For a bank, that's definitely risk.
the state cannot officially commit for anything over a budget year. So they committed, there's this amount of money in the budget, quote unquote. However, if this elongates and the process goes in, you don't have a guarantee that money's gonna be refunded. It's
There's a
gonna
lot of
likely
these
be.
projects that aren't gonna be done till next
That's
fall.
right.
Yeah.
And that's the point of it all.
You're gonna lose another
They're gonna do another
season this year
funding.
because they just
Yeah,
can't
kind of,
get
you're kind of spawning right now, there's just.
unless the
Don't
DEC
do it
relaxes
right now.
it, they only let you work in the water a certain time frame.
You can't even start working now because it's spawning and stuff.
Now, we also had a situation developed, these are the complexities, but so you know, where over the last 2 years since the high water has occurred, a series of floration, I don't know if there is such a word, but a new wetlands has developed in one of these businesses' front yards. They never had.
It's like lawn.
Well, that's what used to be lawn. He said, I've mowed this for years. He said, and all of a sudden, there's a pile of cattails out in front, and the DEC says, well, you can't go in there, that's a wetland. So now he says, what do I do now? And the answer is, I don't know. And so these are the things, and DEC is deeply involved in this. I mean,
They're not having this discussion in Phoenix, you know that.
well,
I go back. to-
Arizona, not.
Maybe New York.
I
Going back to Jay's keynote speaker that he had come in last summer,
Yeah,
actually. Well, it was a year ago's conference, Jay's conference. You recall that speaker? He predicted, looking at weather trends and patterns, I shouldn't say doomsday, but it doesn't look good. His prediction for 20 and 21 were potentially for upstate New York, might be the 2 years you don't see summer. Continuous rainfall. 2 of our wettest years.
You realize what
That was his modeling prediction. I hope he's wrong.
Well, NASA just come out that, they're talking about the lowest sunspot in 200 years activity.
That's what his presentation,
Yeah.
which verifies that. We'll see.
So, all right. Next meeting is gonna be over on Arsenal Street. April, will we be on board to maybe do a tour? I'm talking about April.
No,
We do a tour of our new facility out here.
we should be able, I was gonna ask Peggy to do a little update for us.
So construction is about 95% complete. They're putting in the mini split next week. Because they got a little delayed there. They're drying the floor. They had to put several coats on. Shelving should be installed by the end of the month. And then I need to reach out to the consultants of when they want to start the inventory of the records.
Okay.
So we're getting there.
So maybe by April, we can.
Library's coming.
Take a,
Yeah, take a quick tour. And by the way, Peggy and Joy are involved in a new process. And would you give them 2 seconds worth of,
With the document.
yeah,
Yeah, so we've upgraded our copier, so it has a document scanner on it now. So we've begun digitizing our projects. So I started like this week.
So
So
you
long
want me to
process,
start,
but
or-
it'll be worth it.
Yeah, right.
So,
Well, you know, the amazing part about how often you guys don't realize, but how often during the course of a day, we have to reference back to something or another. Somebody needs a piece of information. Right now, you gotta crawl out in the file system and, you know, now hopefully the way this will be set up, you'll be able to get, everything's digitized, so you'll be able to quickly recall it up, you know, on your computer. And,
How are they looking at record retention and digital, future
Yeah.
digital format?
that's gonna be, once we get through the phase of the consultants, we're creating a spreadsheet and it's all gonna be a whole process.
When we started this at the county, the issue was as technology changes, you've gone from tapes to diskettes to CDs to,
Well,
other
we're
mediums
gonna have to follow our schedule,
and
so
the end of it.
whatever our schedule says.
maintaining
we're
it going forward into formats that may exist and that no one knows about.
Solid
is the
state
tough thing.
PDF.
Yeah.
Pretty status quo.
You're gonna be amazed at what this is.
Convert those records.
We
I'll put
probably
it on
have
speed.
20,000 documents in the office I used to run, we scanning every map, everything that came in the scan, just to get out of the paper, to get to paper.
Yeah, nowadays, Paul, they sell a terabyte portable solid state drive for $70.
But you also have to have an Iron Mountain type place where it's also, you have to have a plan for several different locations for stuff to be stored.
Yeah, we have offsite backup as well.
Yeah, there's a lot more security issues related to
Of
the.
course, all it takes is a flood and you have paper copies, you're done too.
How does this electronic version play into the records, physical records storage system that we're creating right now?
Well, actually, it's gonna be two separate things, but we're hoping in the end that it's all gonna just work together.
Yeah.
So the,
Off the same spreadsheet and,
so the projects that are gonna be electronic version right now,
mhm.
eventually, everything that would be out there would become electronic version? Or-
Yeah,
Ideally.
I'm not sure yet.
That would
Meet with the
take
consultants, I'm not sure
so
of
many
that
man
part of
hours
it.
to convert.
Yeah.
And we also
Right.
only have to digitize all that.
We're thinking about moving it
Yeah, that's
forward.
like a phase 2 kind of thing, yeah.
From today, you know, we're looking at a whole new system. How much we can back into this is going to be a
Do you have
question of staff time.
A destruction table or retention schedule that you live by where you are able to get rid, do you get rid of everything that you're eligible to get rid of?
That's what we're
No,
working towards.
We don't.
Everything out there right now is
Records
like,
Unbelievably.
Yeah.
Because I was always taught that, you know, if you can get rid of it, get rid of it.
exactly.
Legally.
Beneficial.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
that
where we're
works,
headed, that's
okay.
where we're gonna be.
that works, except when you go through a controller's audit, they want to back up to
Well, if
2001.
If the law says you only need records for
Right.
10 years, give them 10 years of records.
Right.
Tell them to go find it somewhere else.
Depending on like how long your pilot stuff is for.
Yeah, and there's
there's certain things like tax rolls are into perpetuity, but transfer reports that everyone had, that's 6 years. And, you know, when you're getting thousands of those a year, and you don't need to keep them, that's just taking up ungodly space. So some things you keep forever, some things have 2 years, maybe, I don't know what it is after the last payment, after a loan is. There's-
7 years.
So once
We try to
it's,
follow the state guidelines, but.
Yeah, we did-
it's still a lot of work
And
even to
once-
destroy records that you can legally get rid of, but
That's,
once you get into that cycle, it makes for a lot easier.
Exactly.
that's why we
That's
have
where we're
a
headed.
destruction device here in the building, so we can
Yeah.
get rid of some of those old files. Just one other quick point.
Destruction and old.
It sounds like we're getting to the point where
Puppies.
it's gonna be cheaper to store it than it is to try and erase it.
Well, once you get all digitized, you have a schedule, you can go in there and you put them in a file, it's just a matter of they're gone, so.
But the
But it's a
notion
lot of
of
work
not
to
having
get
to worry about paper some time ago was just,
Yeah.
you know, we just bought 19 new banker's boxes, just store the stuff on the top of my desk. I mean, it just,
Paperless.
anyway, just one other quick point. The audit is still going on here. The controller folks are still sitting, in fact, I think they're here this morning. It is progressing nicely, although because of interruptions they've had, it just is elongated. I think overall, the audit, according to the discussion I had last night with the auditor, is going very well, for the most part. Lyle, Peggy, Joy, everyone here has done a really good job of doing what they are supposed to do. But I will tell you, we will find some issues that relate to something we may have done years ago. We will be getting a report for staff probably next week. It may be the week after, I'm not sure. The process is they give us an opportunity to hear what they are concerned about. We have a chance to say to them, no, you missed this point, we got this file or something. And then they ship all this information down to Albany, they digest it, and then it comes back in some kind of a report, probably 6 months from now. You know, we're only guessing. It's been a very elongated process, I must say. The people who have done the audit here have been excellent, I thought. They really have been good people to work with. It's just a process which has gone absolutely insane. By their own admission, this agency is completely overregulated. That we are just, we face ABO and the Senate hearings and the comptroller's office and how many levels of scrutiny, I don't know, but it's by their own admission, it's gone completely out of hand. So anyway, we'll see what it looks like at the end of the day. Hopefully, we've done most of what we do right. This will be a test, certainly.
All right, motion to adjourn.
Yes. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone. With that, I'll call to order Jefferson County Industrial Development Agency. Thursday, February 6th, 2020. Get our pledge. Privilege of the floor, no one here. We all received minutes from our last meeting. Is there any additions and or corrections?
I'll move them as presented.
All in favor, aye? Opposed?
No, sorry, I didn't say aye either.
Carried.
Sorry, Dave, we're all sleeping. Nobody voted.
Treasurer's report.
Page 38 of your packet, just kind of running across the top. Our current assets are up 334,000 from prior period. Total current liabilities are also up 261,000. Fund balance is up 67K from prior period. Page 39 of your packet. Again, linear basis, because we've got some bigger things coming in. We're averaging about 86,000 a month right now, break even 78 and some change a month. So we do have some bigger things coming in here shortly. We talked about OIF, the pilot, the closing. That'll significantly increase revenues here. Operational expenses, break even to 83,000 a month. We're spending on a linear basis 130. It's really just all at that 146 arsenal. Some of the budgets they're there, but it looks like they're going to be possibly surpassed. Page 41 of your packet is I think that's the blow up of 146 arsenal. We're spending about 33K a month. Seems like by the time we close this thing, we might get near 350. I hope not, but it could be.
We might exceed it.
Well, I hope the closing can be sped up, but it seems like Don's running into roadblocks there. So we have a commitment to sell a place and reduce our expenses, but that's all slightly out of our hands at this moment. Page 42 of our packet. Quick assets up 286,000 from prior month. Receivables up 51K. Total assets are up 328,000, and total capital is up 67,000 on page 43 of our packet. You go to page 52 of our packet, you'll see our outstanding loans. I believe later we're going to be talking about Mr. Rick. And Taste of Design.
They have since made it.
Okay. They usually seem to catch up like just at the time of the board meeting, so they're delinquent one payment?
Yes.
Okay. as I said, later on, we've got Mr. Ricks on our agenda to talk about discussion of writing off that loan, but they are delinquent currently. Pages 48, 9, and 50 are again just showing the different loans that are out there, 53 and 54 and 55 also, just another schedule or a table to show the loans differently. So I would move to accept the treasurer's report as presented.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Loan review.
Okay, I'll keep talking here. So we had two things on our agenda. First one, you do have a resolution in your packet. We met with Sarah's Barber Shop. It's a micro loan, $10,000. It's fairly well described in the loan review minutes. We asked a lot of good challenging questions. It looks like it's a good location. There's a good price point put on. They seem to have done quite a bit of due diligence. There's experience by Sarah in this industry. Lyle concluded in his item here, it's like most of these micro loans, it's basically an unsecured loan. It's moderately risky, but it's a small value. And even if the additional 3 to 4 stylists were not added, the owner cutting hair, styling on their own would be more than sufficient to generate cash flow to pay through the loan for the period that we discussed. The loan review committee suggested to move this to the full board with a recommendation to allow the loan to proceed.
So with that, I have resolution number 0206-2020.01. The resolution for authorizing a micro enterprise loan to Sarah's Barber Shop in the amount of $10,000. It'll be a 5-year amortization at a rate of 5%.
See, we're in first position.
Yes, yeah, we're in first position.
Yeah, we don't
Yeah,
use
That means one barber chair.
Well, there's some assets. I mean, there were a few things, not enough to pay the loan off.
How often do you get your hair cut?
Oh, we got to throw that one out there.
Can I have a motion in a second?
I'll move it.
Further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution carries. Thank you.
You want to just go into the resolution, Dave?
Yeah.
Since it's kind of
We
self-explanatory.
got resolution 0206-2020.02. It's a resolution for authorizing a write-off of the 2 micro enterprise loan funds to Mr. Rick's Bakery. Wow, this thing just jumped on me.
What happened to the property there, Dan?
Yeah, the bank,
M&T Bank holds the mortgage on that.
yeah, they'll auction it. They will try to sell it, which it won't probably sell. They'll probably put it for auction, I'm guessing. They, by the way, just for your information, Paul called me the other day to apologize for having to file bankruptcy, and he cried, and we had a long conversation. But the interesting point he told me, they booked about 300, I don't remember the exact number, about $300,000 worth of equipment. When the auction was complete, they realized $29,000, of which $9,000 went to the auctioneer. So at the end of the day, after all that equipment was sold, they put $20,000 against the obligation.
The balance on M&T is about 295,000 right now. So
You were a very distant second, is what you're saying.
very, very distant.
Yeah, he was,
Personal guarantees, they filed for protection under Chapter 7, so.
They sold all the vehicles and everything, none of that parent money.
I mean, it's really sad.
I went to the auction. There was a couple of things my son-in-law and I might be interested in. I don't know how that stuff ever got appraised at for 300,000. Way over.
I don't even know where they came up with the number, Ed. I don't know, but it was, even if it were 100,000, you end up with.
I've never been to an auction where there was a 15% buyer's premium.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot he mentioned it.
normally, years ago, it was 4 and 5% to hold an auction. And then we entered the age of 10% buyer's premium has been the standard across the country for a lot of stuff. And then show up there at that, it's a 15% buyer's premium, which illustrates to me that Tech knew that there wasn't going to be a big pool of money there, and in order to do that auction, he was going to take.
Bumped it up.
Yep.
And by the way, the Watertown Trust, I sit on that board. We have a situation, where you pledge this collateral, this equipment, and darn well, it's just not going to be worth anything near what they end up paying for.
We got good money out of the sister inn.
Dave, did you finish reading that, or you still gotta finish? I didn't know if you were looking for a motion. Kind of stopped, I thought.
So it's a write-off of 2 loans and outstanding with a total principal balance of $31,268.55. And I'd entertain a motion in a second on this.
I'll move the resolution as presented.
Any other discussion?
The good news is what the original loan balance was how much?
Well, the
70.
one loan was 40 and the other one was 20.
So, I mean,
40 is down to 13,000, but 20 is down to 18,200.
so in one sense, half the loan was repaid.
They did their best.
Yeah, they were in here right up into the end trying to make things.
Yeah, they fell in tough times, that's for sure. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution carries. Thank you. We talked about the Y and 146. Is there anything else there you want to?
Just remind everybody, we'll hold the meeting next month there, and there's plenty of parking in front. You use the center door when you come in, it's the main entrance. We'll station somebody there because it's an automatic lock kind of thing, so I can't think of anything else,
The door you're talking about is the one facing the top of the square. So I don't know what door to go in.
Yeah, no,
This meeting.
it's the main door, which is up on.
That means nothing.
You know where
I
the
don't know
city
what
parking lot is?
The other end of the
I'll look, I'll
On the
figure it
top
out.
level.
The top level.
I know where the building is, that's as far
Across
as I
from the
can
county
go.
courthouse.
All right, so that's the main door.
Yeah, that's the top level.
I
It's very,
always think the main entrance is on the other side where all the shops are.
No.
no, in fact, that's part of what I'll explain is being proposed when we sit down there. 'Cause you need to visualize some of this stuff. I talked to Dave, it's hard to visualize unless you go there. So we'll do that. We'll visualize all that for you. But it's the front main entrance door. We'll have someone stationed there beginning at 7:30. So we can open it. Okay. So.
Dave, I got one question, probably more for council, but maybe not. Did we ever finish that, I know you had some delays in meeting with the Ag Parks lawyer to get that agreement undone or whatever you want to
Nothing
call it.
else has been done on it.
Okay. I ask once every 6 months.
So we need to appoint a director to the WIC LDC board. And I guess I would entertain a volunteer.
Who's that person now?
I have no one. Who's the last one that was?
It was Kent,
Was
because
Kent.
when he left the IDA, he still stayed a member at large, so he still is on the WIC board. But we, as the IDA, still need to appoint someone.
It's a bylaw requirement of that organization. Just like we're on the chamber board, we're on the trust board,
So who's not
we're
here?
on that board.
Who left early?
It's gotta be somebody on the IDA though.
That'll be somebody in the board. It's an interesting place to be. You'll see some interesting challenges that they have. I would tell you, it's a heck of a lot easier to do it today than it was 15 years ago or 20 years ago when we started. Billy's got a great.
I've run out of time, so I'd love to, but
They meet the third Tuesday of every month. Just so-
Hang Jeff into the way.
What time do they meet?
8 o'clock.
just once a month, I'll do that if no one else will.
Thanks, Paul. You'll enjoy it.
Chad, consider that.
Yeah, well, I'm a tenant, so it's really kind of a conflict for me.
Yes, it's in this building.
So I have resolution 0206, 2020.03, and appointing Paul to the,
That was my warning that I just adopted something I shouldn't have. Accepted.
to the Watertown, as a member of the Watertown Industrial Center Local Development Corporation.
Is that like a time frame or 3-year deal, 2-year deal?
They don't
So
have.
until he
terms.
doesn't want to do it.
No, it's until forbid, as they used to say, really, you can stay on there for.
Yes, I asked that question, and I read the bylaws.
I'll move your resolution, or second.
If you want to put a term on it, that's fine. If we want to revisit it every year, then why not
Yeah, we could.
roll people through it?
Right.
We typically do that, look at all these appointments. The other thing is you might want to have a designee, Paul, if
Well, it's clearly only as long as you turn on the IDA, right?
Yes.
And those are cycled through.
Well, you could still stay on the WIC board.
Oh, that's true, but that member is a large.
Right.
Yeah.
They are a 7-member board as well.
I moved it.
Send me the
I'll second it.
information on who's on the board, would you please?
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
other than Paul. Other than Paul, there's nobody.
He abstains. I would have done it to Bill, but we've done that to him.
Oh, yeah, that's right, Bill wasn't here.
No, we could have named him, when he wasn't here.
He's busy enough for the energy.
So are we gonna do it every year? Or with the term of?
With the term.
With the term, okay.
I think it's.
Because I'm gonna update the resolution with his name and then I'll add that.
Okay.
20-year term?
Till
Counselor,
death.
Yes, you'll recall that in December, you authorized a restructuring of the re-energy bonds, which in essence was a cash flow request, allowed them to apply all their principal payments to the 2014 bonds first, and once those were redeemed in full, then they would move on to the subordinated bonds of 2015. There was a little glitch in the resolution because when they didn't make a payment on the 2015 bond, the trustee considered that a default and was going to issue a notice of default, but they all worked it out. And the trustee agreed to not issue a default notice, but agreed that they could amend the bonds again to specifically state that this scenario would not constitute a default. The resolution you have in front of you is just an authorization to amend the bonds again and authorize Don to sign them so that what you did in December, when they follow that scenario, won't constitute a default under the 2015 bonds. So, and everybody, all the principals have agreed to the resolution. So.
I should have asked this before, I'll move the resolution.
I'll second.
Why is it solid waste? I should have asked that the last time ago.
You're talking to the wrong
I
guy.
think it has something to do with tax exemption.
Yeah, I think you're right. I
Yeah.
think it's qualified specifically for that because of the exemption.
I know they're burning green stuff, but.
That was the exempt status that they had to go under to get the bond, yeah.
Through the IDA, as opposed to civic facility.
Right.
So we have resolution number 0206, 2020.04, amending trust indenture for Re-Energy Black River LLC solid waste disposal revenue bonds. Roll call vote, please.
Dave,
I abstain.
John,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes,
is absent, Lisa.
Yes.
Resolution carries.
You recall in the presentation, Paul, they referenced part of their mission, cleaning up waste wood, coming back to solid refuse.
That's how they qualify it.
Yeah, which is a big deal, which
I always thought they were going to be taken in C,
we all.
cleanest
Yeah.
construction debris to burn.
Which is this,
They do bring some waste wood in there. I can tell you, I've seen piles of nails.
yeah, files. Oh, I think, what was the figure? in excess of 50% of all the landfill material going to landfills today is construction debris. It's not true garbage, it's not really garbage, it's construction debris.
Anything else for the IDA?
The only thing I'll mention, because I mentioned it a couple, 3 months ago, but it's still ongoing. We're talking about 2 major projects to occur at the city industrial park, of which, in order for those to be accomplished, we the IDA, need to move our rail siding to accommodate this growth. It's Renzi and Roth Industries, thank you. Both of whom are expanding, and by moving the rail siding, we're able to accommodate this expansion. However, it has been an enormous hemorrhoid to get this done because there are a number of jurisdictions involved, and we continue to try to sort out, even as of yesterday, who owns what, who needs what of all the various parcels, because the city's involved. Each one of the jurisdictions are involved, the 2 companies, the IDA's involved. Sooner or later, we're going to have a resolution that allows us to take and move this facility and so on. And once we get a good handle on it, Joe may want to add some stuff.
Yeah, what's involved is, it involves a property acquisition by the WLDC, the Watertown Trust, exercising their option to purchase a piece from the city. It involves Renzi's providing or doing a swap of property with the IDA so we can move the rail to an area right now that is owned by Renzi and owned by the city. And then that will free up some property adjacent to Renzi's to give them more area to expand based on their expansion proposals. But as Don said, it involves the Watertown Trust, the IDA, the city, and Renzi's agreeing to what the property distribution is going to be. And that's where we're at right now, trying to get the survey maps finalized. They then have to go to city planning to approve the subdivision / lot line adjustments before we can do the real property conveyances. What complicates it is that the contractor wants to get into the property now while the ground is still frozen to do the site work. And since we haven't completed this yet, we're probably going to come back to all the jurisdictions and property owners at next month's meeting with an agreement to allow the work to be done. But it's going to involve, requirements for liability coverage and indemnifications and all that kind of stuff. And the first step, I think, is getting the city to agree to it. But Renzi's will agree to it, I'm sure.
You're looking the wrong way.
I know. I know.
You're right.
But I think we need to have a comfort level that the city is going to agree to this, temporary access for construction. And they'll have to convince their attorney that it makes sense to do so.
At the end of the day,
Quite frankly, I still think that's going to be our biggest stumbling block.
It usually is. I shouldn't say that, but.
so at the end of the day, going
It
back
is
to
the whole
the original purpose of that whole park and preserving that rail spur for future potential, because it hasn't been used since we had it. With reconfiguring the lots and the swap out, is there still viable real estate there to accommodate a business that needs that rail siding?
Well, the main reason we're doing this is to make it available for Roth for their proposed expansion, so they will be using the rail siding when
There's
it's
a
done.
rail car down there.
And
So it is.
it is a viable, the principal reason for doing this is to accommodate Roth and their expansion and Renzi and their proposed expansion project, because they've got a project for expansion too. And then there's still city property available for future development.
That can accommodate access to the spur.
Actually, it can't get any done.
Just for background, the reason all you're sitting here listening to this is because I pushed this issue 25 years ago. Mark Purcell and I and a couple of others decided we were gonna need a warehouse facility in the community. And so we pushed, we got DOT grants, and we did a bunch of things through the IDA. And now it turns out, finally, we're seeing good purpose. Because this Roth, what's going to happen is Roth is going to move their operations out of Syracuse and up here and add 30 to 40 additional people. So, and then Renzi too is going to do the same thing, so it's going to make very positive things. Anyway, I just wanted to be aware, because how it actually ends up and when, I don't know. But we need to.
With that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Oh, so Don, you got anything?
He's not easy to.
Dave? Oh, yes.
I meant to bring him up here, but I was
Nice
out
guy.
today. He
Nice guy. Yes.
Yeah, we've been working on.
I tried to prepare a list for